Hello everyone, new video here, June 1st, 2024. Proof. The Bible does not teach creation ex nihilo, or from or out of nothing. Neither does 2 Maccabees 7:28. In fact, it's 2 Maccabees 7:28 that sort of prompted me to do this video. As most of you know, I have discussed creation from a biblical and cosmological perspective in the past numerous times. I have translated the creation accounts in the book of Genesis, Hebrew and Greek. I have done videos where I discuss my translations of those texts and what they mean, how they're consistent with science, real science, not fake science that just comes up with a theory that has no evidence, like life from non-life, and is basically accepted as a fact, or at least as something credible, when it has no evidence at all behind it. I'm not talking about that kind of science. As you're going to see, the Bible is consistent with credible science that shows through repetition and repeat of a process that brings forth a consistent result. Life always coming from existing life, for example. It's a repeated process, one we see all the time, and so we can accept it as a credible scientific theory. When it comes to the idea of creation out of nothing or ex nihilo, that's not something that's taught in the Bible anywhere. It's not taught explicitly, and it's not even taught by credible implication. People can interpret things anything they want, I guess, but that doesn't make them credible. To have a credible interpretation, you have to interpret something in its historical context according to a proper linguistic analysis, a full understanding of the semantic range of the terms and the grammatical structures involved, understanding the context of the document, the thinking of the author, and the beliefs and practices of the time in that area and elsewhere that would relate to the subject text. There's nothing in the Bible that is in any way supportive of creation out of nothing. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment, whether you believe that or not. Just think about those words. Creation out of nothing. What is nothing? It's nothing. There's nothing there if there's nothing. In the sense we're talking about, creation ex nihilo, you can, as we're going to see, have something that's created out of something that existed, but is not in any way like the stuff it's made from, so that when it comes into existence from the pre-existing stuff, it's essentially a new creation, never seen it before. Even though that doesn't mean the material was brought into existence out of nothing. Think about that for a minute. What is nothing? What do you mean bring something out of nothing? Okay, well, in reality, in like the real life we're living, not a fantasy or a realm or mind that comes up with beliefs that don't have any evidence. In reality, it's not possible to create something out of nothing in the ex nihilo sense, where there is nothing. Not talking about something that's pre-existing, but not the thing it becomes, like I mentioned. Nothing is nothing. You couldn't even tell me what it is because it isn't anything. Well, what are you talking about exactly, creation ex nihiloists, when you say out of nothing? So God created matter, in your view, without any atomic particles, no electrons, no neutrons, no protons, no quarks, components of protons and neutrons. None of that. God didn't use any of that. No electricity from himself. Creation ex nihilo is want us to believe, everybody, that nothing can be made into something. And that's scientifically impossible. Just like claiming life can come from non-life. It's the same logical fallacy, and it has no evidence. It's begging the question. It's assuming its conclusion as its argument, because it doesn't have any evidence. Anyone who makes either of those arguments, that you can make something out of nothing, or that life can come from non-life, is a liar. Okay, they're a false teacher and a liar. There's no example of that anywhere. Humans who are already alive with the proper apparatus and chemicals and conditions can generate things like amino acids and compounds. Not life, though. And humans can create matter from energy, as I'm going to show you. But there is no example, and it's not possible based on science itself and all known examples. You can't get life from non-life, and you cannot create matter from nothing. Okay? So we have evolutionists not using science who, if they claim life can come from non-life, and we have certain theists claiming God can create matter out of nothing, right? No, he can't. Just like life can't come from nothing, it has to always exist. Some kind of mass or matter has to always exist. And you know what? The Bible tells us exactly what that is. It's not matter outside of God that eternally existed with him, like various Greek thinkers and later Christian thinkers started to discuss. No, it's him. It's God himself who is described and presented to us in the Bible in the exact energetic mass terms he would need to be to create everything out of himself, which is exactly, explicitly what the Bible teaches, and we'll get to in a moment. But just to make it clear that anybody, anywhere, who claims something can come from nothing in the ex nihilo sense of the term nothing is a liar or stupid. Some people are dumb because they don't take the time to follow up what liars tell them. And so they just repeat the same dumb lie versus actually asking for evidence. How do you come up with that? How does that happen? Oh, you're just saying God just does it? Well, where does the Bible say that? If the Bible doesn't say it and you just believe something else, well, that's fine. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people who claim the Bible teaches this garbage, this lie that is so easy to refute. It's like flat earth. People who believe in flat earth don't believe in evidence. If they did, they'd be up there on a plane, on a flight plan for flat earth. And guess what? They'd be dead. Yeah, because they'll tell you to your face you're an idiot for not believing flat earth. But they're the ones who are so cowardly and pathetic. They don't have a flight plan, and when they do, they die using it, like someone actually did. Because flat earthers will kill you over stupidity, that anyone who simply looks at a flight plan that actually works, we don't have crashes happening all over the place because of flight plans based on a spherical earth. You flat earthers are ridiculous. You don't have evidence. Get up there in your flight plan. Get up there in that plane right now, you flat earther, or get out of here and shut your mouth. You're an idiot. Just like these idiots who claim you can make something from nothing. You're ridiculous. You're a false teacher and a liar. I'm going to shove your false teachings and lies right down your face and your throat, and you can choke on them because you're misleading people. You idiots. You guys are so ridiculous. All you false teachers who come to the Bible and you act like you know what you're talking about. I think you're ridiculous. Have you translated the creation accounts in Genesis? You're ridiculous. You don't know what you're talking about. Have you examined all of the texts in the Bible that pertain to how God creates things? If you haven't, and you're talking about this subject, you're ridiculous, and you should shut your mouth. I've got people who come to my channel and who impale themselves, literally impale themselves on a torture stake with stupidity. And they quote a text that's not only non-canonical, not accepted even by the Jews. Our earliest texts aren't even until after the time this whole ex nihilo thing started, with the best being Codex Alexandrinus in the 5th century, with the Latin Vulgate, the 4th century. 5th century, 4th century. Now, all of this is later stuff. Okay, there's no early text of 2nd Maccabees that's consistent with creation ex nihilo, and even these later texts that we have of 2nd Maccabees, 728, they don't teach creation ex nihilo. And if they do, they contradict the Bible, not on that point, but on how it says that man was made, which we're going to get to. It's so stupid, everybody. It does upset me because we have these people who don't use evidence. They come up with a dumb, ridiculous idea that contradicts the Bible or is related to a cursed Bible like the King James, removes God's name, adds to Revelation. Are you crazy? You have that Bible in your hands, quoting it authoritatively? How about no? No, how about we'll use the name of the God of the Bible and not add to Revelation so we're not cursed and come up with stupidity like creation ex nihilo or flat earth. If you believe in flat earth, I don't care who you are. You come to me with your belief, again, anybody, and you don't have a flight plan that you're ready to go up and demonstrate, I'm not going to even talk to you. You're a coward. You're pathetic. Get up there in the airplane and follow your flight plan to your death, like the other flat earther did. You don't even have the courage to do that. But you have the courage to come here and start talking about flat earth at my channel? How about you have the courage to show some evidence, like a flight plan, and explain how all these spherical earth flight plans are working? Or all the military radars that track ships, unless they're over the horizon, in which case they can't see them anymore. Guess what? Spherical earth. There's no evidence anyone should take seriously about flat earth, creation ex nihilo, or this ridiculous related idea that eternal generation is possible. That's another lie, non-biblical teaching. These all come about much later. These are all lies and false teachings. They're not in the Bible. Flat earth is not in the Bible. The idea of creation ex nihilo out of nothing is not in the Bible. They can't even explain to you how that would happen, right? It can't happen. Let me show you. Let's take a look here. First, just at Google. You can do a simple Google search. I know some people think somehow that's not credible. I'm just doing this for convenience because apparently we have so many stupid people out there. They can't even do this. We saw this with Carlos Xavier from Focus on the Kingdom and his ridiculous, pathetic attempt to try to obfuscate his failure to understand personification in the Bible. We documented his idiocy previously. We've got a bunch of other idiots out here now who are doing a lot of the same things. And like I said, one recently came here and tried to justify creation out of nothing, as if that's even possible. No, it's not. And it's not biblical. And it's not even taught in the text outside the Bible that he tried to use, 2nd Maccabees 7:28. It actually contradicts him and or the Bible, but he couldn't even figure that out. Again, to promote these kinds of things, you have to be stuck in a very low-level thinking mentality. You might be a nice person. I know some flat earthers who are actually nice people, and I don't dislike them. They're just stupid when it comes to evidence because they don't have any. And I asked them for it repeatedly, and guess what? Nope, not coming. And yet they still believe the bullshit, the lies. That's what this is. It's garbage. And we have to take our time when we could be out helping the poor and the lowly to address these idiots on all these ridiculous subjects because they claim they're in the Bible. No, they're not. So let's just take a look. First, scientifically, because the Bible doesn't contradict science. You idiots do. Google, is it possible to create matter from energy? According to the first law of thermodynamics and Einstein's theory, matter and energy are interchangeable, and a fixed quantity of both exists in the universe. While humans can manufacture energy, creating something from nothing remains impossible. Adhering to the fundamental laws of physics. Those are God's laws. He's the one who created these laws that help us understand what's possible and not possible. So again, they are trying to get us to believe something that puts us at odds with credible, documented, and tested science. You need to be really careful about people who teach creation ex nihilo. They're either stupid and uninformed, or they're deliberately lying for reasons that have nothing to do with anything a normal person can understand. Because normal people go based on the evidence. And guess what? The evidence shows ex nihilo is not possible. It doesn't even make sense, again, like I said, when you think about it. You can't make something from nothing. They don't even believe there were atomic particles there. Nothing. Because then it would always have to have been eternal in them and outside of God. No. This is why you're wrong, because you are outside of God. You're not looking at God in the Bible. If you did, you'd see what's inside of God and quite capable of producing everything. Unbelievable stuff. Let's look at this article. This is a basic summary from this article. Can we manufacture matter? Right here in How Stuff Works, updated March 7th, 2024. Let's just read it together. It's not that long. According to the first law of thermodynamics, this is the part quoted in the Google summary we just read. So I'll skip that. I'll reread this part. Creating something from nothing remains impossible based on fundamental laws of physics. Manufacturing matter involves converting energy into matter, a process that has been demonstrated in labs through pair production, which converts a photon into a pair of particles, one matter and one antimatter. Right, so this is a process being done by intelligent human beings using an already existing photon. The Latin phrase creatio ex nihilo means creation out of nothing, and it's largely the domain of theology, philosophy, and mythology for a reason. The first law of thermodynamics, which is actually a conservation of energy equation. The gist of that equation, as you don't no doubt remember, is that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. How does this law affect matter? Albert Einstein theorized that matter and energy are interchangeable. Matter takes up space, has mass, and composes most of the visible universe around you. Energy, on the other hand, takes multiple forms and is essentially the force that causes things to happen in the universe. Yet both matter and energy are variations of the same thing. Each can convert into the other. According to Einstein in the first law of thermodynamics, a fixed quantity of energy and matter exists in the universe. When two protons collide in the Large Hadron Collider, they may break apart into subatomic particles called quarks, and a mitigating particle force called a gluon. Even when matter and antimatter annihilate each other, they produce energy in the form of photons, which are the quantum units of light. If you were to build a molecule out of atoms, you wouldn't be creating matter. An atom is matter as well, and so are the subatomic particles within it. It's like if you took flour and used it to make a cake. You wouldn't be creating food. Instead, you'd be taking one food product and building a more complicated food out of it. So all you would need is mass and energy. Not just in the most simple forms, but sufficient to create what we see. But in a smaller sense, this is what it's talking about, putting things together that are created out of existing mass and energy. The mistake a lot of people are making in criticizing this is claiming that it means there's eternal matter outside of God, which is a lot of what the early fathers were getting involved with. That's not what the Bible is talking about, nor what I have ever described. God has mass. He is energy. He's spirit. He's fire. Who in their right mind is claiming God doesn't have mass and energy sufficient to create more mass and energy? It's almost unbelievable when you look at how the Bible describes him, the way these dummies concoct these stupid ideas. We're going to get to it more in a moment, so I'll save it for the actual text. Let's read the rest of this. To manufacture matter in a way that adheres to the first law of thermodynamics, you have to convert energy into matter. Conversion occurs on a cosmic scale about 13 billion years ago. This is their theory of where it came from. The Big Bang consisted entirely of energy. Matter only came into being as rapid cooling occurred. Okay, so this is very important because this is where they get their whole cosmological theory of the origin of everything. That this conversion occurred in the Big Bang, this matter and energy. And in that sense, the way they see it, they try to reduce the matter to such a small degree that somehow they believe it still can account for everything you see because of the energy, I guess. But, well, you'll see. They relate it to how things are manufactured in a star. So let me get to that in a moment. Let me finish this. In the lab, creating matter entails a reaction called the pair production. So called because it's just important here that you understand the conversion they believe first occurred. This production of matter into everything first occurred 13 billion years ago, in their view. Accidentally, right? Randomly. Not just, it was just there and then it wasn't there, or in this subatomic particle size thing and then exploded into everything. So something is always eternal in their view, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. It's just this small containment of everything needed to create what you see now that somehow exploded into what it is. It's ridiculous. In the lab, creating matter entails a reaction, right? Creating matter in a lab. This is the only way they can do it. You can't create it out of nothing. That's a retarded understanding. Ex nihilo goes in the category of retarded beliefs and ideas. So, flat earth, creation ex nihilo, eternal generation. If you've got any of those on your list of you have to believe these or you're a heretic, you're gone. There's no way back, and don't talk to me ever again. I will not engage you unless you have evidence. If you actually bring the thing that you never bring that would give some reason to explain why you believe these things, fine, of course. The problem is you guys can't do it. Your evidence is so stupid and actually refutes you. I'm just pumped up to do this video and show how ridiculous this pagan heresy is. Creating matter entails a reaction called a pair production. It's so called because it converts a photon into a pair of particles, one matter, one antimatter. The nucleus shares the energy and allows the photon to disintegrate into an electron and a positron. The antimatter, opposite of an electron. The position inevitably returns back into a photon when it collides with an electron. So yes, humans can manufacture matter. We can turn light into subatomic particles. But even the best scientists can't create something out of nothing. Okay? It's not possible. And the longer you dummies want to keep showing how stupid you are, I don't know why. But Some people just can't admit they're wrong and start following what's right. You'll have to ask them. There's no evidence of it, and everything we have evidence of shows that with eternal energy and light and mass, you can create all of this. We're talking about God as the eternal fire, okay? You're going to see it. What do you think fire is? Excuse me, fire? Yeah. No, that's not nothing, okay? So God can absolutely create out of whatever mass the Spirit has and energy. Everything. That's what the Bible actually says he did. And that's consistent with science. Did you know that? And your view's not? Not even one example. How about that? Ha, crazy stuff. And you still believe it, huh? Weird. Wild. Let's take a look at this brief summary from Northwestern EDU. QRG.Northwestern EDU projects, the SS docs, thermal /3, where does energy come from and go? Energy can be found in many things and takes many forms. Just 2 paragraphs. Pay attention here, because this is where they believe all of this stuff came from. There's potential energy in objects at rest. Will make them move if resistance is removed. There's kinetic energy in objects that are moving. He goes on to talk about things. Your body is using metabolic energy from your last meal. Your hands will heat up. That is some form of mechanical energy, turning into heat energy. So energy can change form. But where did that energy ultimately come from? Let's trace back a chain of events. A bicycle is rolling down the hill, transferring potential energy into kinetic movement, energy. The bicycle got its potential energy due to position related to gravity, by the rider using metabolic energy to move the pedals. The pedals used mechanical energy to move the chain, which moved the wheels. The rider's metabolic energy came from the chemical energy that was stored in the molecules of the food she ate. That chemical energy entered the animal whose meat she ate by the animal digesting a plant and breaking the bonds in its molecules. The plant made the molecules by using light energy from the sun. The sun's light energy came from electrons in its atoms, lowering energy states and releasing energy. The energy in the atoms came from the nuclear reactions in the heart of the sun. What started the nuclear reactions? Physicists think the Big Bang did. Well, metaphysicists think God did, because that's the only explanation that makes sense scientifically. Even here, they're attributing this creation of atoms, the energy in atoms, I should say, to nuclear reactions in the sun. Do you understand how much more energy is in the God of the Bible, Jah, than one of the suns he created? Yeah, like you won't be able to trace it out. It's unlimited. He's eternal fire. Beyond any of these suns, they're just a creation out of his fire. You ex nihilists are not only against science, you're against the Bible, as we're going to show and have shown, but you can't even make sense of how this happens. It's like to you, well, whatever comes out of God has to be eternal because it's part of his substance. No, that's you being dumb again. Because when something comes out of someone's substance, while the material from that substance may be as old as its source, the thing made from it isn't. Nobody thinks that when God produces something out of him, that the thing produced is as old as him, even if the material is. All material, according to the Bible and science, can't come from nothing. So you Christian theist idiots who think it came from nothing, are left with believing it had to come from eternal existing matter, or God, who is eternal energy and mass. He has mass, matter. He's described these ways, just not flesh. It's where you guys make another mistake. But it doesn't make any sense to believe in creation ex nihilo. It's not only ridiculous on its face, scientifically impossible, but it contradicts what's possible. The creation of energy and atoms from nuclear reactions in an existing sun, or God, even more so. And it fails to understand that creation of matter from existing matter doesn't make the thing created as old as the original matter from which it was created. Nothing in the Bible talks like that about anything born, created, or made. Nothing is seen as the thing that it is until it actually comes out as the thing that it's supposed to be. If you have a child that's conceived inside a mother because of a father having relations with her, well, the child is created or begat at that point into a growing child. It's now been created as a child from pre-existing material, the sperm and the egg. But the created child didn't exist before those two pre-existing things came together. No one sees the child that's begat inside or outside the mother as pre-existing in the sperm or the egg. No. Just like the spirit that God sends forth, as you're going to see, to create things, doesn't make that thing created eternal. It just has part of the energy and mass that he has brought out of himself and will live as long as he allows it to live. So once again, this all lines up with what we read in the Bible. None of it lines up with this idea of creation ex nihilo, scientifically or biblically. Let's go ahead and bring up the text in the Bible. Okay, so we can see scientifically this is a joke, right? It's just like flat earth, eternal generation. They don't have any evidence, everybody. So they just make shit up, right? And that's what it is. It's just garbage, throwing shit out there for people to have to clean up when we should be helping the poor and the lowly, not this stuff. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Every one of you who's teaching this flat earth garbage, creation ex nihilo garbage, eternal generation garbage, you should be ashamed of yourself. And may Jah and the Son address you. Let's take a look at some texts. I'm pumped up. I couldn't believe how stupid this guy was, right? Like Proverbs says, we've got dummies everywhere, everyone. And a lot of these same people don't even believe that. Just rip the book of Proverbs right out of the Bible because it proves how dumb they are, right? I had this one moronic person, like one of the dumbest I've ever seen, okay? Like you're going to see, he uses a text in a way that contradicts him. That's what they do. They end up like trying to prove their doctrine and they disprove it every time. I will not treat them as anything but the fools they are, like Proverbs tells me they are. They don't believe the evidence. They're confusing mankind. They're misleading people and blaspheming God. You don't have evidence? Get up in that plane. Follow your flat earth flight plan or shut up and get out of here. You're a joke. Let's go ahead and bring up this series of texts before the flat earthers ex nihilo and eternal generation is croak. Or you know what? Maybe I will do it bigger. Yeah, let's do that and big. So everybody, when it comes to the God of the Bible, this is who he is. A lot of people, they get very confused. They don't understand what God is and how he's described. They don't think spirits have bodies, even though Paul explicitly teaches that in 1 Corinthians 15, and we're shown that all throughout the Bible. God, angels, Jesus, they all have bodies. Bodies are not all the same, though, just like Paul tells us. They always think somehow it means he has a flesh body, if God has a hand or if he's got a head. No, they're just using things that we as fleshly humans can relate to, but then they describe them as things that are not fleshly. so that even dummies can hopefully understand that's not what it's talking about. It's actually really clear, except for you perverts out there, you spiritual perverts who are really, really stupid. God's being text, check it out. Ezekiel 1, 26 through 28. Above the expanse that was over their head, there was something in appearance like a sapphire stone, the likeness of a throne. To make it a little bigger. And upon the likeness of the throne, there was a likeness of someone in appearance like an earthling man upon it up above. And I got to see something like the glow of electrum, like the appearance of fire, all around inside thereof, and the appearance of his hips and upward. And from the appearance of his hips and downward, I saw something like the appearance of fire. And he had a brightness all around. There was something like the appearance of a bow that occurs in a cloud mass on the day of pouring rain. That's how the appearance of the brightness round about it, was the appearance of the brightness round about. It was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of Jehovah. You see, when the Bible presents these beings to us and communicates what they're like, since we're flesh and they're metaphysical, they're spiritual, they do so using things we understand. Some of them may be actually what they are, like fire. He's described, as you're going to see, as fire, Jah, the angels, fire in very literal contexts, not just here as part of this vision, which even as a vision, it has to be accurate, right? The vision isn't telling us things that are inaccurate about God. Okay, so while it's using anthropomorphisms or metaphors, things humans understand, that's what it is. God has mass. He has form. He has energy. He's a fire, more than any fire you could believe. This idea that somehow he wouldn't be able to generate energy and mass out of his existing energy and mass is another indication of retardation. It's just stupid. They're just lying again, making things up so they don't have to believe the Bible and the implications it would have on their false doctrine. Exodus 33:17, Jehovah went on to say to Moses, "This thing too which you've spoken I shall do." Moses said, "Cause me to see, please, your glory." Right? Just like in Ezekiel, how it was described. Moses wants to see the glory. He says he's going to have his goodness pass before his face. He'll show favor and declare mercy. But in verse 20, Jehovah says, "You're not able to see my face. No one can see me and yet live." Right? He doesn't say he doesn't have a face. You just can't see it. It's too much. He has energy and mass, everybody. This is ridiculous. How anyone ever thought like spirits being invisible somehow means what? They don't have any physical properties of mass? That's just stupid. Nothing in the Bible supports that. We just can't see it. He talks about his glory passing by. He's going to put Moses in a rock and put his palm over him. Again, energy and mass. He's going to take his palm away so Moses can see his back, but not his face. Energy and mass. He's moving by. Moses can see part of him, but not the other part of him. What are you guys talking about? No, there's nothing in the Bible that says what you're talking about. Yeah, it says exactly what we're talking about. And then it says in Exodus 34:5, Jehovah proceeded to come down in the cloud and station himself there with Moses. That's energy and mass. It's all over the place, in fact, in the Bible. I'm just giving, a few. It's so ridiculously plentiful, like begotten things being creations. There's no point in doing it all. What do you need to see? Well, maybe you need to see more. Deuteronomy 4:24, "For Jehovah your God is a consuming fire." What are you talking about? So the sun can explode nuclear reactions that give energy to atoms but God can? It's so stupid. Deuteronomy 9:3, and you will know today that Jehovah your God is crossing before you, a consuming fire he is. No, and again, they're theorizing this from the whole Big Bang thing. None of these things that happen, these reactions and explosions within a sun or within Jah, that doesn't make the reactions and the consequential energy transfer to atoms or atom particles, that doesn't make them as old as the sun. No, it makes you stupid, right? Like some of the earlier church fathers who thought light was continuous from the sun and not unbroken. Right, dummies. See, we're here to correct all of you heretics so you can hopefully turn around before you act really, really stupid and get spiritually knocked out, because that's coming next. If this doesn't cause it, I think you guys are out. I think you guys are seeing canaries. You don't have anything. Get in that plane and fly your flat earth map, or shut up. You're a coward and a pervert. If you are out there making people feel bad about not believing in flat earth, and you don't even have a flight plan you'll follow, you're a pervert. And you need help. You're a liar and a dishonest person. Try to stay away from people who are not honest, everybody. We don't need this. I shouldn't even have to do this video, but it was so perfect when I saw how stupid this guy was, this ex nihiloist quoting 2 Maccabees 7:28. It's perfect. It shows exactly what we're dealing with. People who are too stupid to see, they're refuting themselves. Hebrews 12:29, our God is a consuming fire. Okay, these are not texts put in like Ezekiel visionary context. None of them. You always get these guys, and this same spiritual pervert who came to my channel and misused 2 Maccabees 7:28. Try, they'll say 1 Corinthians 8:6, out of the Father, which we'll get to. That's not literal. Oh, really? What in the verse says that? It's talking about idol gods. That's literal. Those who are called gods, those who are gods and who are on earth, that's all literal. Yeah, no, there's nothing figurative about any of that stuff. It's not a vision, no, none of that stuff. You don't understand the difference, do you, between Ezekiel and 1 Corinthians? It's because you're stupid, right? Here to help you. No, now, of course, they'll make anything figurative that's really literal and literal figurative if it helps their view. That's all they got. Remember, that's all they can do. Deny the actual evidence, assert non-evidence. That's the playbook, everybody. John 4:24, God is a spirit, and those worshiping him must worship with spirit and truth. Okay, so we already saw how the spirit God is described by Ezekiel in vision, right? All kinds of fire and electrum and precious stones. We already saw how in non-visionary texts, Old New Testament, God is a fire. So why would Jesus say he's a spirit? Why not say he's a fire? Because spirits are fire. Not only have we just proven that in the case of God, the eternal spirit fire, his angels, Psalm 104:4, making his angels spirits, his ministers a devouring fire. You see these two words here, angels and then ministers? Yeah, those are in what we call parallel sequence with each other. I'm going to highlight that in yellow. See that? Those two terms go together. See the first term of this first part of the verse and the first term of this part of the verse? They're the same thing. Also, you see this right here? Spirits, and this right here? Same thing. Spirits are fire, everybody. We know that. That's so obvious, right? Guess who doesn't fully understand that? The ex-nihiloists. Because if they did understand that properly, then they would understand that God is quite capable of generating everything that exists out of himself, exactly like the Bible says in non-figurative texts, 1 Corinthians 8:6. So we have here very clear, quoted in Hebrews 1:7 as well, Old New Testament stuff, everybody. Basic Christian doctrine here, okay? We don't need to go to a second Maccabees book that's preserved in texts that date from or after the controversy about this whole ex nihilo retardation took off. Okay. And it doesn't even teach what they think it teaches. Neither do any of the other verses. Isaiah 40:26, raise your eyes high up and see. Who has created these things? Creation ex nihilo, right? Right, you creation ex nihiloists? It is the one who is bringing forth the army of them, even by number, all of whom he calls him by name, due to the abundance of dynamic energy and power. None of them are missing. Is God's energy and power eternal? Oh, it is? Yeah, of course it is, right? He's God. Well, then he has all of the mass and energy in him as a fire spirit. The fire spirit necessary to do just that. What are you talking about, and why are you ex nihilolists incapable of making basic scientific associations versus claiming somehow there'd have to be eternal matter outside of God, or that any matter created out of God would have to be eternal like God? No, you're just stupid. It may be created out of his eternal energy and have within it the energy that is eternal that came from God. That doesn't make the thing created with that energy in a new atomic structure the same age as God. Otherwise, you'd have to make the same argument with everything else that comes from the particles or energy from the thing that made it, which you don't do because you're liars, and you only want it to be true in the case of Jesus, because somehow you think that he is uniquely begotten out of the Father in a non-creation sense, which is not true, but that allows you to see all other creations made outside of God and therefore not eternal like Jesus. I get it. It's just not biblical. It's just not true. So that's all. And now let me show you even more of how that's the case. Let's go ahead and take a look at 2 Maccabees 7:28. This is a great text, and I believe it proves either that 2 Maccabees does not teach creation ex nihilo, or it is teaching creation ex nihilo and is contradicting the Bible explicitly. I'm going to show you. It's not something I have to make up or read into it. It's like right in front of your face. So let me, let's get this going here. Bring this up for you guys here. All right, so 2 Maccabees 7:28. This is the Greek text. Okay, it's basically Codex Alexandrinus from the 5th century. And it says it's a woman who has these sons who are being, executed. And she's trying to encourage them. She's trying to encourage them to be faithful. And so part of what she says is this. Here's the King James right here. Look upon the heaven and the earth and all that is therein. This is the woman talking to one of her sons who's being killed. And consider that God made them out of things that were not. Okay, and that's right here in the Greek text. Uk ex onton. Not out of existing things. In other words, as translations also state, you're going to see, out of nothing. It means the exact same thing. This ex nihiloist reject who came to my channel and tried to use this text after he ignored all the other texts I gave him in the Bible, he ran to this text. Oh, look what I found. Yeah, sure you did. That person actually, because I said that the rest of the verse, as you can see underlined right here, says, so was mankind made likewise. I pointed him that out, that mankind, Adam, wasn't made out of nothing. He was made out of the dust of the earth. And then every human after him was either made out of Adam, Eve, or from Adam and through Eve. So this is on its face false if we take this to mean in red, creation ex nihilo. The second part that's underlined, so mankind made likewise, is taton anthropon, genos huto genetai. This term huto means in the same manner, likewise. In the same manner that God made the heavens and the earth out of things that are not, in the same manner, out of things that are not, God made mankind. That's what it is saying. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, because the way God made the heavens and the earth wasn't from the dust of the earth, like Adam. It's the same manner, though. What's the manner? Well, the only thing described is that they're made out of things that are not. That's it. There's nothing else it could be talking about. So whatever this is in red, it's saying the exact same thing happened with mankind. Not again, that they were made in the same way out of the dust. Same manner, out of things that don't exist. So if we take the red part as meaning creation ex nihilo, out of nothing, no atoms, no atom particles, no components of atom particles, right? Quarks. If we take this to mean that, then mankind was also made out of nothing ex nihilo, which directly contradicts the Bible, like explicitly, right? It describes how God created the heavens and the earth. Then God formed man out of the dust of the earth, right? So to say that mankind was made in the same manner, ex nihilo, is to contradict the Bible, which isn't a big surprise since this is not a canonical book. The Catholics and some others accept it. The Jews don't, Protestants don't, and we don't even have credible manuscript evidence until late 4th, 5th century. But there's more here. Okay, so either this is contradicting the Bible explicitly, right? It's not a question of whether Adam was made from something that existed and that had just been created. There's no questioning that. It's obvious. If you do, you're gone. So either 2 Maccabees 7:28 is contradicting the Bible there, or it's not. Now, I'm going to show you how I think it probably isn't the way it describes things that out of things that didn't exist. That doesn't necessarily mean out of nothing, no atomic particles or subparticles. But we'll take it for what it says for now, okay? Let's just take this for what it says, that this means creation ex nihilo, and that 2 Maccabees also teaches that for mankind. Contradicts the Bible, but we're just going to say that's what it teaches. It's a source attributed to the 2nd century BCE. Again, though we don't have copies until much later, let's just give it its best position and say that's what it's teaching. Creation ex nihilo. Okay. Look at the other translations. New American Bible did not make them out of existing things. Look at the red parts, right? The last part's really not a question. It's either likewise or in the same way. That's what it means. Same way how out of what did not exist. New Revised Standard Version. God did not make them out of things that existed. Common English Bible. God made these things from nothing. That's very creation ex nihilo. Douay Rheims. God made them out of nothing. Very creation ex nihilo. Good News Translation. God made it all from nothing, just as he made the human race. And that's what I quoted to this ex nihilo reject who came to the channel, that's saying that God made humans from nothing or out of nothing is against the Bible. And he claimed I was misquoting it, when I in fact quoted directly multiple translations of that very text. Again, people, These are not normal individuals. They run around just arguing with people over the stupidest things. But this one made me chuckle a little bit because of how dumb it was. And the fact that he impaled himself on his own scripture, which contradicts his own belief or demonstrably shows it contradicts the Bible, one or the other. Either it's teaching something consistent with the Bible or it's not. And if this is meant to mean this last part, just as he made the human race, if by that is meant creation ex nihilo, then that's exactly what you have, right? Then you have a contradiction. Now, it's possible, though, that this might not be talking about nothing in the creation ex nihilo sense. Now, let me just bring up for you, we're going to read a couple sections of 2 Maccabees. We're going to read the context because there's an important part here that a lot of people fail to understand. And they get hung up on the part we just read where it says the woman's talking to her son, trying to encourage him, and says, look and see that God made all these things. Let's see. We'll go to the Catholic.org. We'll go to the Catholics here. They love 2 Maccabees. Deuterocanonical. They don't like Apocrypha. They think that's mean. So let's see here. 2 Maccabees. Okay, we're going to go to chapter 7. Now, look at what it says starting in verse 20. We'll read 20 to 28, okay? So we have this woman in verse 28 who's seen her son be executed. And she's telling him to look up and see the heavens and the earth that God made out of things which do not exist, out of nothing, right? Things that don't exist are nothing. It's the same thing. So anyone who tells you they're different is either dumb or a liar or both. It's real easy to see, but when you're dealing with dishonest people whose beliefs mean more to them than the truth, anything's possible. Verse 20. Okay, so we're going to read to 28, that verse we just read multiple versions of, which many try to use to show creation ex nihilo, in a Jewish text dated originally to the 2nd century BCE, but copies of which don't come about until 4th century or later. Verse 20, but the mother was especially admirable and worthy of honorable remembrance, for she watched the death of 7 sons in the course of a single day, and bravely endured it because of her hopes in the Lord. Indeed, she encouraged each of them in their ancestral tongue. Filled with noble conviction, she reinforced her womanly argument with manly courage, saying to them, this is the woman who says what we read in verse 28 about created out of things which don't exist. Here's where she starts talking to that son. Verse 22, I do not know how you appeared in my womb. It was not I who endowed you with breath and life. I had not the shaping of your every part. She doesn't know. She's a woman who's seen her sons die rather than, disgrace the law. We don't even know who wrote 2 Maccabees as well. And this woman is not said to be inspired, under inspiration here. She openly admits she doesn't know how the son appeared in her womb. She doesn't know. I guess the sex and everything didn't clue her in on that. Or she's talking about beyond that, how it works, right? How it actually happens after the sex. Verse 23, and hence the creator of the world who made everyone and ordained the origin of all things will in his mercy give you back breath and life, since for the sake of his laws you have no concern for yourselves. Antiochus thought he was being ridiculed, suspecting insult in the tone of her voice. And as the youngest was still alive, he appealed to him not with mere words, but with promises, on oath to make him both rich and happy if he would abandon the traditions of his ancestors. The young man took no notice at all. A great deal of urging on his part. Antiochus got his mother to agree to try to persuade him. Verse 27, bending over him, she fooled the cruel tyrant with these words, uttered in her ancestral tongue, "My son, have pity on me. I carried you 9 months in my womb and suckled you for 3 years, fed you and reared you to the age you are now, and provided for you." This is the verse. "I implore you, my child, look at the heavens and sky and everything in them. Consider how God made them out of what did not exist, and that human beings come into being in the same way." Okay, but notice here, she starts off by saying she doesn't know how this happens. She does not understand any of this. So we have a source that's suspect, non-canonical by all Christians and by Jews, non-canonical for all Christians, some Christians, Catholics and others. Not canonical by Jews, not in the Dead Sea Scrolls, not appearing in early language translations or Greek codices until the 4th, 5th century, after the controversies involving ex nihilo are well underway. It's a text that also, 2nd Maccabees, has many suspect interpolations and other problematic statements. There are good reasons it's not canonical. But all that aside, this person doesn't know she doesn't understand any of it. And so we have dummies quoting people who admit they don't know. They're stupid when it comes to this. She doesn't know how this happened. She said so herself. All she knows is that God calls them out of what did not exist. And that doesn't even make sense from the sexual relation she would have had unless she somehow didn't understand the ejaculatory process and what it really involves. So it just shows she doesn't know what she's talking about. She tells us that explicitly, by the way, and then goes on to prove it. Or if this here means, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that you can say something is a creation that didn't exist before, like Adam, even though he was made from the dust of the earth. In one sense, he's not there. In another sense, he is there, right? If you're just looking at the dust of the earth, and then you see Adam there, well, then you can see how she might conceptualize this, not understanding how it works. And that's why she directly associates the creation of mankind with the creation of the heavens and the earth. So either her understanding of the creation of mankind is not biblical, in fact contradicts the Bible, or it's consistent with it, but to be understood in the sense that the things that didn't exist before they were made are the things that were actually made. In other words, Adam didn't exist, or what he was made, right? His flesh, his blood, he was the earth, and God added spirit to it and created the form. I think that's what 2nd Maccabees 7:28 is saying, because I think the woman doesn't know what she's talking about. She tells us that in her speech. And then she goes on to say that man and the heavens and the earth were made in the same way out of things that didn't exist. Well, either she doesn't, again, know what she's talking about and is contradicting the Bible, or she does know what she's talking about because she parallels it with the creation of man, which is from pre-existing material, but just not in the form sense in which Adam existed as a man after he was made. Same with the heavens and the earth. I think that's what she's trying to say because of the connection with Adam's creation. There's no way you could have a biblical understanding of Adam's creation and think it's from nothing. Nobody believes that, not even creation ex nihilists. But yet they'll quote this text where the woman who says she doesn't know how this works says something that seems like creation ex nihilo, but then likens it to something that's not. Okay, so I don't believe 2 Maccabees 7:28 is teaching creation ex nihilo. It might be, given its late appearance, late usage, and potential contradiction in the same verse with Adam's creation. So it could be something that came about later as a polemical insertion that helped with the creation ex nihiloist position. But it doesn't, right? It creates a contradiction with the Bible, if that is the case. So in no way can 2 Maccabees 7:28 be used as evidence of creation ex nihilo during the biblical periods. It doesn't even present a creation of Adam, if that's the case, creation ex nihilo, that's consistent with creation in the biblical periods. So using it to try to interpret the Bible shows you're gone, right? You're using documents that openly contradict the Bible in the very verse you're using, or show you're not using it correctly at all. And given the stupidity of some of these people, that's very possible. All right, now to kind of show what I'm talking about a little bit more in this whole, creating things out of things which didn't exist, looking at an interpretation of 2 Maccabees 7:28 that's like the creation of Adam, but that sounds like it's not. Let's look at a couple other texts. So let's go to Romans 4. And we'll look at verse 17. Right here, as it is written, I have made you a father of many nations. He is our father in the presence of God in whom you believed, the God who gives life to the dead and calls into being what does not yet exist. Okay, that's very similar to 2 Maccabees 7:28 in the sense that what he's calling into being doesn't yet exist as the thing he's making. This is not talking about creation ex nihilo. It's literally talking about giving life to the dead. And the dead are not nothing. They may know nothing. They may be conscious of nothing. But according to the Bible, they are raised to life again and given a new body, all of which involves creation, energy, and mass. None of which would be impossible for God to do with his already existing energy and mass. So there's a sense in which things can be called into being when they didn't yet exist. Now, it's a little bit differently worded in 2 Maccabees 7:28, but again, we're given the similar method of creation in man. And so I think the statement, things that do not exist, isn't meant to deny pre-existing material like the earth that was used to make Adam. There's just a contrast between things that exist and then things that didn't exist before they were made. Now, I think 2 Maccabees 7:28 kind of sounds like a little bit more not out of things existing, right? But that, if we go back just for a moment to the Greek of that text, 2 Maccabees, this right here, not out of things existing. This is plural, on tone. So it's not a reference to God. God made the heavens and the earth that then were used to make Adam out of himself, according to 1 Corinthians 8:6. It's this explicit teaching. And you're going to see even more how explicit that is. This is not that. This is talking about multiple existing things. God did not make the heavens and the earth out of multiple existing things. That's exactly what it says. Things which are not out of things existing. So we don't believe he did that. We believe he made him out of himself. He's not things existing. He is him. He is the existing one, the Ha'on. That's different from on tone. So I think even there, conceptually, we're dealing with something different here in terms of the woman who admitted she doesn't understand this. She doesn't know how any of this happens. So then to use her to try to claim that's what happens is stupid, especially given the fact that she's talking about existing things not being used, not an existing being God, singular, and she parallels it with the creation of man, which was made out of pre-existing matter. None of this supports creation ex nihilo, and if it does, it explicitly contradicts the Bible. So you can't use it to tell us what the Bible teaches. It's against the Bible, like the Trinity and other false doctrine. All right, let's go to another text. Back to the Bible Hub. We're almost done, everyone. A little special bonus video here so everyone understands these issues clearly. Hopefully, you're not confused scientifically, theologically, by a bunch of idiots running around who can't accept the basic evidence available in all of these texts. 1 Corinthians 1:28. Excuse me. He, that is God, chose the lowly and despised things of this world and the things that are not, to nullify the things that are. You see, this isn't something that doesn't exist. It's something that doesn't exist as it is going to exist, as he makes it exist. The things that are not are being used, so they have to exist. It's very, very important why I shared this verse and the other verse from Romans and one more from Hebrews, because this language, things that do not exist or out of nothing, I don't think anything in the Bible, again, what's out of nothing? Nothing in the Bible talks about nothing being used in creation. It's not even possible. That's why it's not in the Bible. The Bible doesn't go against science. These liars and false teachers do. The Bible speaks in certain ways that are consistent with everything it says and science. And that is that God made all things out of himself. He is eternal energy and mass. A fire. The idea that he couldn't do this, which is what the Bible says, is scientific. The idea that he could do this, I should say. The idea that creation ex nihilo is what was done is not scientific and creates yet another conflict with the Bible. It's incredible. Hebrews chapter 11, same with flat earth, right? They just can't stop discrediting the Bible. And so we have to deal with all this crap. It's upsetting, right? We should not be this fragmented over such stupid issues. That's why we have to start just staying away from these people that teach stupidity. Read Proverbs. They're stupid. Okay? They're teaching known lies. Like, you can show them in their face and they still do it. Well, that's a wicked person, okay? You want to teach flat earth? Get up in your plane, use your flat earth flight plan, and let's see what happens. If you don't do that, you better never bring up flat earth to me again, because you're a hypocrite and you're sending people to their deaths, you stupid bastard. To borrow an expression from Sam, and that's appropriate. I should use a lot more harsh terms, and I just might. I am so frustrated with these stupid, pathetic liars who just won't teach the Bible. Right? We get all these people confused and thrown and skinned like sheep without a shepherd, and these so-called teachers acting stupid, presenting ridiculous ideas and beliefs that they don't even have evidence for, and that contradicts all the evidence that is for the opposite. No mercy. Nothing. You are a liar and a false teacher, and if you don't stop it right now, we'll just double up. Oh, I got a lot more. Oh, yeah. Not even close. In terms of this video, though, we're close. So let's just read a few more texts. Psalm 104. So sick of these people teaching false doctrine, everybody. It is ridiculous. It's pathetic. Whether it's Watchtower, whether it's Trinitarians or Socinians or Flat Earth idiots, I am so sick of these people destroying this book and blaspheming the God of this book, making the Messiah out to be an idiot. Also, they can look like idiots. Psalm 104, verse 24. How many are your works, Ja'ol? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. 29 to 30. When you hide your face, they are terrified. When you take away their breath, they die and return to the dust. Return to the dust. That's where they were made from, like we already know. When you send your spirit, they are created. Your spirit. God is a spirit. God is a fire. His spirit is energy and mass. That's why when it came over Mary, it was able to beget a human child, create in her a human child. It said the Holy Spirit came upon her, did it not? And that which is begotten you is the Son of the Most High. Right there. He sends forth his spirit. They're created. Jesus was begotten in Mary. It says that in several opening gospels. Son of, generated from. It's a creation, just like we know being begotten is a creation all throughout the Bible. Another ridiculous teaching that it's not. So right here, we see how creation works. God as his individual eternal spirit exists, the Ha'on. And he can send forth his spirit and create things because he's a fire. He's mass and energy, more than anything you could imagine. Ecclesiastes 12:7. Before the dust returns to the ground from which it came, talking about humans dying, and the spirit returns to the God who gave it. Yes, everything is from God's spirit. Every living thing is because God gave it spirit, just like you see in the creation accounts of Genesis. When those things die, the spirit they were given that already existed because they were given it, because it's from God and not from something outside of him, from nothing, it goes back to him. Right, just like the physical things go back to the earth from which they came. Exactly, it's real simple. It doesn't need any of this ridiculous garbage. Let's take a look at Job 38. This, now we're getting into the final text, everyone. We're going to wrap it up with these. This proves conclusively that when people talk about being born, like Jesus is begotten from God and therefore eternal, because if you're begotten from God, he's eternal, so whatever he's using to make you from himself has to be eternal. No, other than in the sense in which he's giving his spirit, right? Like we just read in Ecclesiastes and in Psalms 104. The spirit goes back to him. Right, so the spirit is from him. So if we have his spirit, and that spirit is eternal, does that make us eternal? No, it doesn't, does it? Because spirit is God's substance. It's what he's giving living things so they exist after they're created. By his spirit, by imparting his spirit. He gives us some of his spirit. Did you know that? It can actually be given, like divisible. You know how Trinitarians others lie and say God can't separate any part of himself or create from himself more? No, they're just lying again. They just lie and make things up and claim that would somehow make him deficient. No, not even close. No, it says right here, he sends forth his spirit and they get to keep it until they die. And then it goes back to God. So it proves it's his eternal spirit. It's not a created spirit outside of him that just dies. Or continues on. It goes back to the one who gave it. Didn't you read that? We just read it. So what don't you understand? It's so obvious and clear. It's really upsetting. Although I was, I got some good chuckles out of this second Maccabees 7:28 thing, man. But it's overall depressing. As you can see, I'm very frustrated. I meant to be taking a few weeks off, but I thought this would be a good reason to do it. I've had it with the flat earthers, the creation ex nihiloists, and the eternal generationers. They're all liars. They're all false teachers. And they don't have any evidence. They just make shit up. And I'm tired of it. And I'm going to use the proper language to describe their crap. This is crapola. Okay? This is garbage. This is Baal shit. You know how Elijah said maybe Baal's taking a crap? This is the shit that Baal crapped out. Yeah. All his false teachings are garbage. And this is no exception. And if it's not Baal, it's still garbage. Like Baal. 38:8. We don't have time for this garbage, everyone. It's time to move on. It's time to grow up, knock these idiots out, and move on. I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about spiritually. They're kooks. Why are you spending any time with these idiots? I spend a few moments like I did with this nut job on 2 Maccabees 7:28, and then I got rid of him. The second he started saying 1 Corinthians 8:6 is not literal, or I'm taking it literal, and then I'm misquoting 2 Maccabees 7:28 because I said out of nothing, which is what multiple translations say. Yeah, like he knows more than all those people, or me. No. And we just get these people running around like they know what they're talking about. They don't. They're not supposed to be teaching. You teach flat earth, you need to close it down. Okay? You're not qualified. You're disqualified. You teach creation ex nihilo, and you say it's biblical, you're done. Okay, shut it down. Stop lying to people. Save yourself some punishment, okay? You teach eternal generation, you teach all three of those, you're going to get strokes. Boy, are you going to get some strokes. Prepare for a spiritual beating, and you are not going to like it. But that's what you liars and false teachers are going to get. Exposed and humiliated. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this because I'm going to prove how pathetic these three beliefs are. They are a joke. And they have nothing to do with the Bible. Eternal generation, creation ex nihilo, and flat earth. Gosh. 28 through 29. Does the rain have a father? Oh, I meant verse 8. Job 38. Who enclosed the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? It looks like we have birth imagery here for the sea that God created according to Genesis 1 and 2. Why would the Bible use the imagery of birth for creation unless it was accurate imagery? Verses 28 and 29. Does the rain have a father? Who has begotten the drops of dew? Oh, guess what? God is the begetter of the dewdrops. Verse 29, from whose womb does the ice emerge? Oh, he's begetting the ice too. Who gives birth to the frost from heaven? God is giving birth to the frost from heaven. Did you know that, creation ex nihilos and eternal generationists? How about that? You know that birth imagery that you try to say is only for Jesus, and so therefore he's uniquely, eternally existing with God as part of his nature? No. No, that imagery is actually very commonly used of creation, and it's actually, when it concerns the prehuman Jesus in Proverbs 8, uses katizo and ganao in parallel sequence. I know, huh? Isn't that cool? Makes it real easy for us non-liars to just believe the Bible. And every other text in the Bible that shows that begotten things are creations. Every single one, spiritual and physical. Did you know that? You might want to read the Bible. Yeah, did you know that God gives birth to the frost? and that ice emerges from his womb. He begets drops of dew. He's their father. What are you talking about in the Trinity? Verse 8. Yeah, the sea comes from him, his womb. Did you know, while that may be figurative, again, it's using language we understand, because these beings are fire. You understand? Spirit, fire, like the real clear literal descriptions we are given and envisioned. You can even compare the same things with the spirits in Daniel or Jesus in Revelation, all the same thing. They have energy and mass. And it's eternal. And the creation that God generates out of himself is described not just for Jesus. No. That's you lying again. That's not the way only Jesus is described. Yeah, not only are other sons of God and humans described as coming out of God, like being born from him, that's, coming out of something is. Like right here, the sea bursting forth from God's womb. Yeah, that's not creation ex nihilo. That's coming out of God himself. Figurative language or not, it's describing God himself. So either the figurative language is accurate or they're lying like you are. I'm going to say they're not lying and you are. So we have all kinds of creations being directly born out of God as their father. And we get these ridiculous idiots who act like this isn't even possible, right? Because the water would have to be eternal then, right? Yeah, it's coming out of God. Did you know that? It's not creation ex nihilo. Can you read that right there? Who's the Father who begot the drops of dew? Yeah, right. No creation ex nihilo. Sorry, and begotten imagery for created things directly from God. Just like Jesus. That's why he's called the beginning of the creation by God. Bible and Trinity conflict video coming on that soon, a couple weeks. So this is just so obvious and clear, is it not? This is what the Bible teaches. All these other idiots are just making stuff up to try to fit their false doctrine. Look at this text. Oh, if you thought Job 38 was good, tell me, creation ex nihilo is, or anybody. Let's hear what you have to say. If anyone wants to comment, free to do so. What about this? Before the mountains were born. What? How can mountains be born? They're created. Born and not made. Born and not created. Right? No, wrong. No, that's later false doctrine that shows you don't believe the Bible. It's really easy when we hear that. We can tell immediately. You see this right here? Yeah. The mountains were born. Oh, where were they born from? Were they born out of nothing? Which is scientifically impossible? No, 1 Corinthians 8 says, all things are out of God. Yeah. Even the mountains right here. Born. Talking to God, you brought forth the earth and the world. Well, the mountains were born. So was the earth and the world. So this idea that things that are created aren't born is just a lie. And there's a couple ways you could look at this, the mountains being born, right? Either directly out of God, like Job 38 says, the seas and the ice and the dew and the rain are begotten from him like a father. Or they're begotten from him, like those texts say, and this it says, in the Son, who puts them together. That's the only difference the Bible makes where it concerns the firstborn and those born after him. The word firstborn is defined. I think I said Deuteronomy 32:17 the other day. I think it's Deuteronomy 31:17. We'll just go ahead and bring it up real quick. It calls the firstborn in the Bible multiple times in Deuteronomy the beginning of his generative power. See, again, it's him as power. The firstborn's the beginning of that power. Or as the Septuagint says, the beginning of his children. Because after the firstborn is the secondborn and the thirdborn. The only difference is the firstborn came directly out of God. So did everything else, by the way, but it went through the Son after it came out of God. The Son didn't go through anybody else. That's the only distinction the Bible makes explicitly in multiple texts, Colossians 1 and Proverbs 8 being two of them. Now here in, just real briefly, or is it 32:17? Maybe it is. Sorry, I missed 21:17. I apologize. I think I said 32:17 in the last week's show. I apologize for that. 21:17. I've quoted this numerous times before. So I'm sure everyone knows what I was referring to last time. But right here you can see, he must acknowledge the firstborn, the son of his loved wife, by giving him a double portion. For that son is the first fruits of his father's strength. This is the NIV. But it literally says the beginning of his generative power. That's what father's strength means. That's it. The Bible is very clear and explicit on all these things. In fact, if we just go, one of our last couple texts, John chapter 3, I mentioned before how spiritually and physically, all things that are begotten are creations. And how things can come from something already existing and have the same nature, but not be as old as that thing. And we have something similar here in John chapter 3. John 3:3-7, Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless he's born again." Nicodemus says, "How can you do that? You can't enter your mother's womb and be born a second time." So he understood what was going on. Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless he's born of water and spirit. Flesh is born of flesh. Spirit is born of spirit." Right there. Flesh brings forth flesh. Spirit brings forth spirit. There's no difference in that equation. He's paralleling them right here. So in the same way that flesh brings forth another flesh, that's the same nature, flesh, but not the same age. It's a different creation in time, even if it's from the matter of the prior flesh. It's the same with spirit. That doesn't make any of them the same age, and that doesn't even make sense. That's a ridiculous concept. It's just made up. It's invented. There's no such thing as a begotten thing that isn't temporally and distinct individually from the thing that begat it. Not even a Siamese twin can be conjoined as a father and a son, right? It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. But this is all they have, everybody. They don't have anything in the Bible. They don't even have anything that's scientific or logical. They just have their false doctrine. And so we have to deal with all this crap because of it. Let's go to our last text, 1 Corinthians 15. I think I've shown conclusively that 2 Maccabees 7:28 is likely not teaching creation ex nihilo. And if it is, it's directly contradicting the Bible, not only on that with the heavens and the earth, but also in paralleling it with how man was made, saying it's the same manner. No, it's not. Not if by creation ex nihilo is what is meant. And we also saw that in the same context of that speech, the woman admitted she doesn't even know what she's talking about. So we've got these people who don't know what they're talking about, quoting a source that's spurious, and after, in its best forms, the controversies involving ex nihilo, we've got people who don't know what they're talking about, quoting a non-accepted document in terms of unanimous acceptance, and it's got problems, quoting someone who admits she doesn't know what she's talking about, in a book no one knows who wrote it, and where she's not under inspiration, and where she says something that doesn't seem accurate according to the Bible, and that's definitely not accurate according to how man was made, but that might be like what we read from Romans, Hebrews, and 1 Corinthians 1:28, where there are things, he calls things into existence from things that are not. Doesn't mean creation ex nihilo. It just means the creation of that thing from things that it was not. Like Adam, in the parallel sense that 2 Maccabees 7:28 is made with the heavens and the earth. The only way that parallel works biblically is if it is accepting that there was pre-existing matter, just not in the way that is meant as it relates to what Adam was made out of. Things like he became. It's the only way I can see that it makes sense. Or like those texts I read from the New Testament. But no matter what, it's not evidence of creation ex nihilo. It's not evidence that creation ex nihilo was taught in the Bible or during biblical periods. And if it is, it's evidence that contradicts the Bible, not just on creation ex nihilo, but on the creation of Adam, mankind. So just all around bad evidence, bad arguments, bad theology, and spiritual retardation. 1 Corinthians 15, our last series of texts, everybody. Wanted to do this video so you all understood what's going on scientifically and biblically and why we get so many ridiculous arguments today. People who don't follow the Bible where it concerns what begetting means. People who don't follow the Bible where it concerns creation. And people who don't follow the Bible on flat earth. We didn't really get into that, but a lot of these same people seem to have that similar problem. 1 Corinthians 15:45, so it is written, the first man became a living being. The last Adam became a living spirit. This means soul, like a human being. NIV's terrible. The spiritual, however, was not first, but the natural, and then the spiritual. The first man was out of the dust of the earth. The second man from heaven. Does it sound like Paul believed that man was made out of things which didn't exist? If that's how you want to take 2 Maccabees 7:28? No, he clearly didn't, did he? We stay with the Bible, everybody, okay? Let all these lames go outside of the Bible and exist in confusion, okay? The second man is from heaven or out of heaven. Once again, not created out of nothing, because that's not possible. And in this case, we're talking about Jesus and his resurrection. His spirit went back to God, just like Ecclesiastes 12:7 says, the spirit returns to the God who gave it, and then he was resurrected and given a spiritual body. After which he rose up his physical body on the third day. But I'm talking before that. That's why it's talking about the physical versus the spiritual here. As was the earthly man, so also are those who are of the earth. As is the heavenly man, so also are those who are of heaven. Just as we have borne the likeness of the earthly man, so also we shall bear the likeness of the heavenly man. So this is very clear. This is very clear, I believe, in terms of how things are born or made. Like Jesus says, flesh begets flesh. Spirit begets spirit. The first man is out of the earth, from the dust. The second man is from heaven. So there's no sense in which there is a continuous, eternal quality for any of these beings, right? There's no continuous, eternal quality for Jesus being either the firstborn of all creation or the firstborn from the dead. He's a spirit who was raised to life after God resurrected him. From himself, he gave him a spiritual body, and he already had his spirit that returned to him. Father, into your hands I entrust my spirit. There's no creation ex nihilo, not at his original creation and not at his second creation, well, third really, right? There's no creation that is human creation either. There's no creation ex nihilo, I should say, right? We talked about that earlier. You send forth their spirit, they're created. So he used Mary's egg with his spirit and created Jesus, the human being. Lower than the angels, lower than the gods. Psalm 8:5, Hebrews 2, 7 through 9. So there is no such thing, everybody, as this ridiculous concept of eternal generation, or that if you're made from God's spirit, you're eternal. They're just lying. They're just coming up with that. Where's that in the Bible? Yeah, the Bible doesn't talk about anything like that. It says the mountains were born. It says that the ice and the seas and the dew and the rain are begotten from God as a father. Begotten, created, used in parallel sequence for the creation of wisdom, was made before everything else that's described there in Proverbs 8, which is also what's described in the creation accounts of Genesis, where the sons of God are already existing. Genesis 1:26, Job 38, Psalm 8, whole video about it. So there's nothing in the Bible that supports this idea of eternal generation. It's just an invention used as an excuse not to believe in a created Jesus. They think lower of him for that. They think somehow a creation is bad. I guess they don't believe the very text they constantly misuse in Revelation 5 that says, the lamb who was slaughtered is worthy. Lamb who was slaughtered is a creation, and it's not bad. It's not sinful. You know who's bad? You perverts who keep lying about the Bible. Not just eternal generation, but this ridiculousness about creation ex nihilo. You don't have any evidence in the Bible. All the evidence in the Bible contradicts you. All evidence of science contradicts you. You know the only thing that doesn't contradict you creation ex nihilists? Yourselves. Because you're the only ones who believe you. When it comes to flat earth, if you don't have a flight plan that you're ready to take, you should be ashamed of yourself and humiliated everywhere you go for having people risk their life for your stupidity. With that having been said, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are. I'll be back soon with another video, more live streams, and may God bless you. In Jesus' name.